Hello and welcome to this Train the Teacher webinar. It's a certificate program containing 3 modules on educational psychology and related concepts. It's a media offering of findwhatnext.com. Findwhatnext.com is a next generation education portal helping students and professionals to take informed career decisions. The viewpoint or perspective we'll adopt in this session are a focus on how and why of teaching, training and learning using knowledge from academic and industry settings and future forecasted from the past and present. The course contains exercises at the end of each module, and participants are requested to pause the video at the end of each module and work on the exercises and share the results with us. The agenda for this session include A. Educational psychology, its concepts and applications, B. Learning styles of students, and C. Classroom management. What is educational psychology? Educational psychology is simply the application of behavioral sciences like psychology and sociology to the field of learning. A brief introduction to me, the trainer. I'm Arul Johnson, a HR professional with 20 years of experience in human resources and L&D. I'm a postgraduate from Accelerate Jamshedpur and have worked in various industries, and I'm keen on education and learning. I have published 2 books and I'm Lean Sigma certified. I have finished over 100 learning paths in LinkedIn. I am passionate about intelligence and personality testing. You can reach me at the LinkedIn profile given at the end. The objectives of today's session. In the first module, we'll get introduced to concepts and applications of educational psychology. In the second module, we'll learn about the learning styles of kids, especially of those belonging to Generation Z. And in the third module, we'll identify futuristic methods in classroom management. So why do we need to use behavioral sciences in education? Because applying behavioral sciences like educational psychology, child psychology and sociology in the field of education helps solve many problems and approach the subject professionally. The KSA framework of knowledge, skills and attitude is a widely used and useful method of categorizing cognitive, affective and psychomotor skills. Cognitive is a word which refers to primarily knowledge or thinking aspect of intelligence. Affective domain refers broadly to attitude and values. Psychomotor skills are corresponding to skills or physical skills in general. Module 1 on education psychology. In this module, we learn about the 4 teaching styles, methods of teaching, setting academic goals through Bloom's taxonomy, and managing student motivation and subject content. Here are 2 interesting quotes on education. Education is one thing no one can take away from you. Education is simply the soul of a society as it passes from one generation to another. Let's start with an understanding of the 4 teaching styles. Teaching styles are how a teacher gets his or her points across and imparting the same to students. There are 4 teaching styles. The first teaching style is called authority, second one is called demonstrator, third one is called facilitator, and the fourth is called delegator. The first style is called authority style. This style is typically teacher-centered and frequently uses lectures and one-way presentations. Is it a healthy style? It depends on the context and content. However, it's considered classical and archaic. The second style of teaching is known as demonstrator or coach style. This style includes activities and demonstrations. It's more suited for hands-on, skill-intensive subjects like science lab, music, arts and crafts, and sports. The third style is called facilitator style. It's useful for subjects like psychology, humanities, and social studies, where learning in small groups is possible. The facilitator typically divides the class into 4 or 5 groups and gives individual goals for each group. Then the groups discuss among themselves and give suggestions to the facilitator, who facilitates the discussion across groups, very often used in higher education. The fourth style is known as delegator or group style. In this style, the learning process is largely delegated to the groups who prepare and do many projects and make presentations using peer feedback activities. Let's recap. How can we apply this knowledge to our teaching? First, we need to enrich our sessions with more hands-on learning and less of lectures. We need to use more human relations to add value. Use instructional design effectively, and each of these styles are suited for certain subjects and domains. A good teacher should use a blend of all four styles. The next topic is teaching methodologies. One of the most frequent methods we encounter in teaching is the lecture method. This is followed by other methods like group discussions, hands-on activities like role plays and case studies. In today's digital classroom, we use customized videos, augmented reality, and virtual reality, which is more frequently used in next generation schools. How do we set educational goals and objectives? There are three domains called cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domain. Each are targeted at knowledge, attitudes, and manual skills respectively. Each of these domains are represented in a triangular form with the simplest form at the bottom progressing to more complex and difficult ones at the top. For example, in the cognitive domain, the basic skill is to remember a particular piece of information or knowledge, followed by understanding or comprehension, followed by using the knowledge, breaking down the knowledge to smaller parts, and creating a new framework in synthesis, finally followed by judging or evaluating the knowledge. Similarly, in the affective or feeling domain, one starts from receiving information, responding or reacting to it, giving importance or value to it, organizing the values to previous values, and internalizing or living the values. In the psychomotor domain, we move from simple reflex movements to more complex tasks and skills and using body language effectively. How can the teacher improve the motivation levels of a student? Motivation is often described in terms of higher and lower order needs. Higher order needs are like self-actualization and self-esteem, whereas lower order needs are like bodily security and social needs. The various types of student needs are like approval and motivation from the teacher, instructions, care, feedback, autonomy, and individualized attention. Student needs can be represented in the form of Maslow's hierarchy of need. Maslow's hierarchy of need, there are deficiency needs and growth needs. When deficiency needs like basic needs are lacking, the growth needs may be difficult to attain. Overall, there are 8 needs in this modified Maslow's hierarchy. When lower order needs like hunger and security are not fulfilled or deficient, higher order needs are difficult to progress. How does a teacher master his or her subject content? By constant reading and refreshing and practicing the skill of teaching. Mastery over the subject matter is important, so is emotional intelligence. Also, care and empathy for the student are needed for effective mentorship. To recap the first module, we started with the 5 styles of teaching, then methods like lecture, group discussion, etc., goals through Bloom's taxonomy, and 2 types of motivation, higher and lower order. Finally, we saw the importance of teacher acquiring mastery over his or her subject content. So here are some exercises for module 1. Take time to work on these exercises which are part of the assignment for the first module. You may share your results with us. Welcome to module 2. In this module we'll understand 4 learning styles of students, some points on child development, individual differences among students, and how to customize learning to Generation Z, the group of students born between 1996 and 2010. Here are 2 interesting quotes on learning. Learn continually, there's always one more thing to learn by Steve Jobs. And learning never exhausts the mind, Leonardo da Vinci. There are 4 types of learners. Number 1, visual learners, to whom seeing is believing, and they primarily use eyes to gather information. Number two, auditory learners who primarily use their ears to hear and listen to podcasts, audio content, and verbal stuff. Number three, read write learners to whom reading is primary input and writing and note taking is the primary output. Number four is kinesthetic learners to whom touch and movement are primary inputs. They will like physical activities like walking, dancing, and hands on activities. Other modes of learning include physical, solitary, social, and logical. Physical is akin to kinesthetic or tactile learning using the body, especially touch and hands. Solitary learners prefer self-study. Social learners enjoy group learning, and logical learners like to use reasoning and logic to learn. Pioneers in educational psychology. Two important names in the field of learning and education are Jean Piaget and Lev Vygotsky, who are both from the constructivist school of educational psychology. Piaget researched and wrote on stages of thought development, and Vygotsky wrote on socio-cultural influences of learning, among other things. Other thinkers and practitioners include Freud, Erik Erikson, B.F. Skinner, Maria Montessori, John Dewey, etc. According to Erik Erikson, a famous psychologist, children go through the following stages of development. The infancy stage, where they choose between trust and mistrust. Early childhood, where they choose between autonomy and shame and doubt. Preschool, where they choose between initiative versus guilt. School age, where they have to choose between industry and inferiority. Adolescence, where they choose between identity and role confusion. Young adulthood, where they choose between intimacy and isolation. Middle adulthood, where they choose between generativity and stagnation. And maturity, where they choose between ego integrity and despair. We'll see this in greater detail in the next slide. In infancy, between the age 0 to 1, children develop the virtue of hope through resolving the conflict between trust and mistrust. Trust involves trusting the caregiver and the immediate environment. The focus is on the virtue of hope. In the next phase of childhood, 1 to 3 years, they resolve the conflict between autonomy and shame and doubt. The facet of early childhood choices has a lot of importance in how the child behaves as an adult. Similarly, in the play age 2 to 6, the conflict is between initiative and guilt, and the virtue is purpose. This is followed by other virtues like competency, fidelity, love, care, and wisdom. I would encourage you to study this model of child development in greater detail. Based on Carl Jung's theory, individual differences exist among students and people in general in the following areas. People may prefer to be introverts or extroverts, intuitive or sensing, thinking or feeling, perceiving or judging. Introverts derive energy from within, whereas extroverts by socialization and having a lot of friends. Intuitives see the big picture, whereas sensors use their five senses to derive data from the senses. Thinkers and feelers, as the name suggests, decide on the basis of reason and values, respectively. Judges are those who like to come to conclusions and closure more than perceivers. Another individual difference could be in terms of the six personality variables: realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional. According to Howard Gardner, a Harvard professor, all people have one or more of the 8 or 9 intelligences. The first intelligence has to do with language, verbal or linguistic. The second intelligence has to do with mathematics and logical skills. The third type of intelligence has to do with spatial or visual knowledge. Fourth has got to do with bodily and kinesthetic. Fifth type of intelligence has to do with musical or rhythmic intelligence. Sixth has got to do with interpersonal intelligence. Seventh has got to do with intrapersonal intelligence. It's also followed by naturalistic and existential intelligences. These intelligences are also called as word smart, logic smart, nature smart, self smart, picture smart, music smart, and body smart. So everyone has varying measures of these variety of types of intelligences. So how do we customize the learning to the Generation Z or the cohort of kids born between 1995 and 2010? Generation Z folks are innovative and curious. They want change, activism, and they are trying to adapt and be flexible. They are fitting into our society and workforce. They have unique traits and characteristics in economic and cultural dimensions. They are gadget friendly and always connected. So the values of Generation Z are equality, activism, collaboration, sustainability, and flexibility. So Generation Z folks are more global under the influences of gadgets and devices like smartphones, more demanding, eager to stand out. They are after experiences and they are very pro-social in terms of social responsibility. So Gen Z values having fun, accomplishing goals, caring for their health and well-being, making money and prioritizing relationships. So that concludes our module 2. These are some exercises for module 2. Pause the video and do these exercises and share the results with us. We'll progress to module 3 now. In this module, we'll try to understand how to practically prepare for classroom activities, the various types of learning methods and learning aids and tools. Finally, we'll use an acrostic method to identify some learning related concepts in greater depth. Here are two interesting quotes. The classroom is a mistake making, laughter sharing, independence building, brain stretching sort of place. Everyone matters. And the second quote says, it's the teacher that makes the difference, not the classroom. A teacher has to firstly understand the curriculum and set weekly, daily goals, plan his or her session well in advance, and assign homework to students. If you see the lesson plan shown here, there are elements like objectives, materials, source and procedure, followed by evaluation. Objectives could be based on Bloom's taxonomy. Material are the learning aids. Sources refer to the learning content, and procedure refers to the teaching or pedagogy procedure. Evaluation refers to tests and project assignments by which grading is done. What are icebreakers and energizers? Icebreakers are activities which help the individuals of each group to understand each other's while forming a team at the beginning of the session. Energizers are exercises which help the team to increase their energy levels so that they can focus better on the next learning activity, typically after lunch. Bingo is one of my favorite icebreakers where students try to get the autograph of other students who share the description as themselves, like people born of the same birthday month or playing a sport like hockey together. Get creative in customizing bingo to various audiences. Some useful activities are moon landing and desert survival, two similar activities where a group of participants work on a situation of stranded in a desert or a moon from which they will prioritize the objects which they will use for moving to the mothership or the destination. NASA has given its own set of objects. Group dynamics can be gauged in these exercises. Core curricular activities take place outside the academic curriculum but are related to academics in some way. Participation is voluntary and has no bearing on a student's grades. Extracurricular activities, on the other hand, occur off campus and are not connected to the university or classroom instructions. Some examples of these activities are like debate team, fraternities, school newspaper writers, student council, cheerleading, school theatre group, etc. Here are some learning aids for classrooms: whiteboard, blackboard, overhead projector, digital boards, handouts, charts, graphs, and libraries. At Find What Next, we identified a set of words like teacher, student, and grade, which we brainstormed using the alphabets in the word. Here are the results. The word teacher, we can make an acrostic on it. T standing for trust, thought leadership, teamwork, and truth. E for enthusiasm and energy. A for application of ideas, assertiveness, aptitude and attitude, and assurance. C for choices, decisions, communication, child psychology, and curriculum. H for humble, happiness, balancing of head and heart. E for empathy and early education. R for responsibility, rights, relearning, rationality, and relationships. So this is one easy method of brainstorming where various thoughts can be identified and grouped together in the form of alphabets in a particular word. Student, S stands for skills, simple, successful, subject matter, specialization. T for teamwork, trust, thinking and topic. U for unlearning, universal, use of tech. D for duties, discipline, design, skills. E for energy, enthusiasm, EQ and EI. Emotional quotient and emotional intelligence, experience, experimentation, extracurricular activities and evaluation. N for needs, nice, network. T for truth, technical skills and talent. Similarly, learning. L stands for life skills, leadership, logic and lessons. E for experiential and experimental learning, expressions, endurance, esteem and respect. A for art, adaptability, acceptance and ability to listen, speak, read and write. R for research, rediscovery, relationships and refining yourself. N for new and natural. I for industries and innovation. N for networking, collaboration and nurture. G is for giftedness, growth in body, mind and spirit. General awareness, gamification, guiding others and gathering information. Future. F stands for feedback, friend circle, film, video, movies, family, formal and informal, foundation. U for unity and diversity, unit progress. T for technology, talent, tools, and application like television. U for universal, global, and international. R for remote, relevant, real, and realistic. E for experimental, e-learning, electronic, emerging, and experiential. Similarly, we brainstormed on the word relate. R stood for respectable, reasonable, responsible, role model, rapport building. E for expressing ideas, empathy, excitement, equality. L for leadership, learning, listening, learn with an open mind and learn language skills. A for appreciate, active, approachable activities, attention, and application of the mind. T for tutor, task, tolerance, trust, take notes, and talk. E for examples, eye contact, enrich, aptitudes, examples, and everyone. Grade. The word grade, G stood for goals, growth, gamification, R for relationship, research, reading, results, reverse mentoring. A for aptitude, approach, adherence to process, artistic, analysis and arithmetic. D for doing, development, discipline, discussion and do it yourself. E for exams, ethics and EI, evidence based learning, educational psychology and execution planning. So what are the tips for being an effective teacher? Be clear and concise, be patient, use visuals, diagrams or even props to help illustrate your points, make it fun, be positive and be consistent. Some additional tips are like this. Start with the basics, break down complex tasks into smaller steps, provide opportunities for practice, and be responsive to feedback. Some special issues faced by Generation Z, Generation Alpha, and Generation Beta. So, some problems are smartphone addiction, lack of physical exercises, emotional self esteem, and personality issues. The first problem is smartphone addiction. A solution is to reward students for time spent with family, outdoors, and without device. So the parents have to set the reward system in the family and try to reduce the problems through rewarding time off device. The problem of emotional self-esteem and personality issues is solved through counseling, professional help, and learning on emotional intelligence and well-being. So here are some exercises for module 3. So summarize. How do we summarize what we learned today? Attention, interest, desire, and action. This is a framework called AIDA, which can help in educational psychology also. So we need to get the students' attention in terms of good examples, visuals, and what he wants. And in terms of interest, we could weave a good story and the narrative and create this needs for the topic and the consideration. Desire is to motivate and internalize the values, and action is to commit, relate, and procure the solution. So thank you very much.